Hey y'all, it's J. Paul with SERP Sonar. So this is a sort of part two, following the video I did previously covering the problems with the Google all-in-title search operator. If you haven't watched that one, please check it out. It's linked down below. In this video, we're going to look at how SERP Sonar can help make life easier for folks that are frustrated with all-in-title and its data quality and reliability issues. But this video also shows how SERP Sonar makes it much easier to check for keyword golden ratio compliant search terms. Digital marketers depend on all-in-title as part of the keyword golden ratio research process. So when all-in-title data is inaccurate, it makes the overall KGR process less reliable. And this is one of the reasons that I developed SERP Sonar. So let's take a look at how the app provides an easier and more accurate all-in-title analysis and how it makes calculating the KGR very easy, I would say. So let's just do a straight search here. We're not doing an all-in-title. And we're going to reuse the keywords that we used in the previous video. So we'll be able to do a little side-by-side comparison of the results. Now if we simply click the icon up here, now if you have SERP Sonar installed as an extension, just click it to run the scan. And what it's going to do is it's going to scan what is on the SERP itself, but then it goes and looks at the first 100 or so results pages. It goes to those pages and it pulls back a whole bunch of data from each of them. There's tools out there that do similar things and pull back some of the same data. They typically scan only the first 10 or 20 results. SERP Sonar completed its scan. It usually takes 10, maybe 15 seconds. Sometimes it takes longer, sometimes shorter. There's a bunch of data available right in the app bar itself. You can go in and play around with the app, and there's tooltip pop-ups here that will describe what the different data attributes are, and most of them have human readable descriptions, so hopefully it's pretty intuitive after a bit. One of the things I'll highlight here is it attempts to get up to 100 results. Sometimes Google doesn't give us a whole 100. Often it's less than 100. In this case, we had 98 results. And the stats that I'm going to highlight here for this video are the SERP all-in-title and the page all-in-title. The tooltips describe them as results with all keyword variations in the title. That is what all-in-title means. We distinguish here between the SERP and the page because, as you may know, Google often rewrites the title and the description. In fact, if we scan down here, you'll see how SERP Sonar highlights directly in the SERP whenever Google has rewritten or wherever there is a difference between the title that appears in the SERP and the original page title. Rewriting the descriptions is quite common for Google. Rewriting the titles, perhaps less so, but it generally happens on every single search. Sometimes it happens 20% of the time, sometimes it happens 60, 70% of the time. For our purposes, when it comes to the KGR, we're interested in the page all-in-title. We believe that that is what Google is meant to be returning to us when we use the all-in-title search operator. And regardless, we view the page, or the original page title, as the indicator we should be looking at for whether a page is actually targeting a keyword, and therefore whether we should view it as a competitor. So, in this case, SERP Sonar has told us that of the first 100 results, there are 4 all-in-title. Now, if you remember from the previous video, when we searched on this keyword, we did an all-in-title search, we got 28. You'll also remember that many of those 28, perhaps half or more, were not true all-in-title matches. They didn't actually have all 4 of the words in the title. And a couple of those results, and again, you can go back and look at that video, a couple of those results were not even relevant to the topic. So what is the difference between the SERP Sonar all-in-title count and the Google all-in-title as it's intended to be? Well, as we understand it with the search operators, what Google gives us is these commands that allow us to do a search. But we are not, in fact, searching with the search operators. We're not searching through all 2.45 million results. The search operator gives us the ability to search through the so-called primary index. And this has been discussed by Google off and on, and it's a broadly understood to function in a certain way. There's broad consensus about this. Basically, for any given keyword, Google will isolate a smaller pool of results, call them 100, 200, or 300 or so pages. And of course, that pool is changing as time goes on. But typically, when your page ranks, we consider ranking to be somewhere in the top 100 or so. And if you look in Google Search Console, sometimes your average for a certain search term might be something higher than 100. Presumably, that is because the page is in the primary index for that keyword. It just may not always be making it into the top 100. So, coming back to all-in-title, if the all-in-title as Google provides it is searching from a pool of, let's say, 200 on average, maybe up to 300, maybe as little as 100 sometimes, then the SERP Sonar all-in-title is actually, it's searching on a smaller subset of pages. We look at the top 100 pages. I have done a great deal of comparison. I've done side-by-side analysis of all-in-title versus the SERP Sonar version of all-in-title, right? The page all-in-title. And I've found that consistently SERP Sonar is going to deliver a more accurate count. I think that's partly because, well, the main reason is because Google all-in-title is just broken. I mean, as is evidenced by that previous video. But in my view, doing an all-in-title count on the top 100 pages means you're already looking at the true top 100 most competitive pages as Google provides them. And then we're looking for all-in-title matches from within that pool. So it's not a precise apples to apples. In my opinion, it is a better all-in-title. Okay. Let's look at another one of the keywords that we searched in the previous video. Oh, let's spell it correctly though. So Y with 1 W. So why do buses come in threes? Okay. Oh, by the way, so I'm going to run SERP Sonar in a moment, but when you run SERP Sonar, it doesn't just scan the pages and the SERP results. By default, it also generates this summary report. This is obviously where most of the data is actually being put, and in our view, this is a extremely valuable resource. It's multiple videos of review all by itself. So I'm not going to go into depth here, but if you download the plugin and you just start playing with it, you can see. And again, all of these attributes all have mouse over pop-ups too to describe what they are. Some things are still a work in progress. So we're still working on things and developing. This section here is it's an entire section of the report dedicated to how Google rewrites the titles versus the original and so on. And there's more down below. But there's more there than can possibly be done justice to in a video like this. So why do buses come in threes? Let's run the second keyword here. So we're going to run SERP Sonar again. Okay. And again, we have another report that generates. So in this case, if you recall from the previous video, Google gave us an all-in-title count of 29 for this keyword. The actual all-in-title is 79. So let's say that the all-in-title does in fact pull from a pool of 200 to 300 results in the primary index. If that's true, then there should be at least 79 if Google all-in-title was actually working. Just from the top 100 results for this keyword, we find there are 79. Now, if you were looking for keyword golden ratio opportunities and you found an all-in-title of 29 for this keyword, you might, in fact, think that it is a KGR compliant keyword. In fact, let's take a look at how SERP Sonar makes that process easier. So I'm going to turn on keywords everywhere. And so the way this works is it leverages the keywords everywhere data that is already overlaid in the Chrome browser window. We're not affiliated with Keywords Everywhere, but I'm a huge fan. I love what they do and all the new features they keep adding. In this case, we're going to use the volume, the search volume. So let's run the search again. And now with Keywords Everywhere turned on, we have the volume here in the Chrome window, in the SERP. And if we run SERP Sonar again, let's see how long the scan takes this time. It will, in addition to grabbing all the page results, all the page data, it's also pulling the data that Keywords Everywhere provides here in the SERP. And so in this case, it's looked at the truer all-in-title based on the page titles of 78. It looks at the volume of 170. And right in the toolbar here, we provide a KGR count. And the calculation comes to 45, 0.45, which of course is not compliant. So the volume would have been good, but there are too many competing pages. Now, if you had taken Google's word for it on this keyword, you would have thought that the all-in-title count was 29. And if you had calculated that versus the volume of 170, you would have thought this was a KGR compliant keyword, when in fact it is not. Okay, let's try the next keyword. And we'll leave Keywords Everywhere turned on. So this keyword was how to end a presentation and ask for questions. Okay, so here again we have a volume of 110. Let's run SERP Sonar. Now the other data is also pulled from this overlay here. We're planning to do something with these other bits of data as well in the future, but that's all still on the roadmap. Okay, so it's completed the scan, and in this case, the actual all-in-title, and now you'll recall from the previous video that this keyword, Google was giving us an all-in-title of 19. It was telling us there were 19 all-in-title results. Just visually in the other video, we could tell that the the number was actually 0. And in fact, when SERP Sonar does the search and scans down, looking for an all-entitle match, it finds that in fact there are 0 matches. So in this case, you would have determined that this is a KGR compliant keyword with 19, but with only 0 results. The fact is, this is a much more lower hanging fruit. There is truly no competition, and this is a search term that is asked. It's asked for 110 times a month on average, and this is an easy title for a post. It's a human-friendly, very natural-sounding question. How to end a presentation and ask for questions. It'd be easy to write a post for this. No one has done it. And so this is a sweet KGR opportunity. Okay. Okay. And just for completeness, we'll take this guy on. So here's weight loss pills. This is my, as I was saying, it's the no-fly zone of keywords. 201,000 per month. Ridiculous, insane, off the charts number. Obviously, we're not looking for a KGR opportunity here, but you'll recall that Google told us the all-entitle was 19. 19. Okay, so let's run SERP Sonar and let's see what SERP Sonar says. And just eyeballing it, you know, there's definitely matches here. There's definitely all-entitle matches. And we'll see what the actual total is. Okay, so it's finished the scan and 47. So of 89 total results available on this first, you know, up to 100 results. You'll see that a handful of them couldn't be scanned. So we were able to scan 91.75% of the pages. Of those, 47 are all entitled, not 19 as Google indicated. And just to highlight a few more features about this, because I'm pointing to the bar up here. This is pertinent again for our discussion about all entitled and about the KGR. Yeah, so obviously not a KGR compliant term. But if we scan down, I'll point at a couple other features here. So if the all entitle or exact entitle match, if these buttons are highlighted, and you can deselect or select any of these, the ones in these button groups, that is, they will highlight in the SERP down below. For these features here, which highlight the page all entitled, the page exact entitled, page none entitled, and same for descriptions, for those we put a notation in the SERP. So in this case, we see that that Google has listed this title in the SERP this way, and it's also a page all entitled back on the original page. Now let's see if we select page exact entitle. Yeah, so if you watch as I turn on and off the exact entitle button, so an exact entitle is obviously also a all entitle, but the inverse is not true. So if I choose to look for any all entitle or exact entitle, it will highlight them accordingly down below. Yeah, so you can also see where all the title rewrites were. So in this case, the page, there's a page exact entitle. It's also a SERP exact entitle, but something changed. Google decided to rewrite this title somehow. And over in the report, you could go down and find that title rewrite and take a look at how Google changed it. And I'll just highlight one other feature here, because it looked like there were a few errors when we did the scan, yeah. So when SERP Sonar is not able to scan the page, it will put a timeout indicator over here in the overlay. And so that's just FYI. So when you use the tool and you go through and use the data in analytics, use the report, one thing is probably worth doing is just looking at the first 10 or 20 results. The first 10 or 20 are presumably going to be the most important. They're the highest ranking competitors. But if SERP Sonar for some reason could not do a scan on some of those higher ranking competitor pages, then just be aware that you won't have that data included in your numbers up above. So with that, you know what, I didn't run this one. So let's run this one again with keywords everywhere. Just for kicks and giggles. Okay, and let's run SERP Sonar here. So 260. So actually, there's an important point I'll make here. The KGR, as it's formally written, says that you're supposed to look at search volumes of 250 or less. If you've been looking at search volume data for a long time, you will have noticed there are certain patterns. In other words, there are certain buckets. And so as you look at different search volume numbers, there are repeating numbers that show up a lot. And that is because most of the keyword tools, including keywords everywhere, they get their volume from Google. You know, Google's the ultimate source. And Google doesn't put out raw exact numbers. They put out average numbers, and they put those averages into buckets. And so the nearest average and common bucket volume number to 250 is actually 260. You'll see 250 sometimes, but you also see 260 quite often. So when I do KGR calculations, I will include 260 in my calculation. And so when I had the developers calculate this and sort of build this feature into SERP Sonar, I made the calculation up to and including 260. So it's not a true KGR. The other thing is I want to highlight and acknowledge that this is a KGR based on an all-in title of the first 100 pages. So I've deemed this KGR-T just to clearly indicate that it's based on the top 100. And it's also based on an all-in title count of the same. And so that and the volume of 260 makes it different than a pure true KGR, but it is obviously going to be very close. So that's I'm a big fan of Doug Cunnington. I'm a big fan of KGR. I've used it for a long time. I've had great success with it. So my interest in distinguishing it here is just in highlighting that it isn't a precise, exact replica of the original. Right, so that is my long-winded and winding video to highlight how SERP Sonar can help with a more accurate, a better all-in title count. And it can also help you see very quickly and easily whether a keyword is KGR compliant. If you use Keywords Everywhere plugin as well. No affiliation, once again, I'm just a big fan. It's super cheap, and the keyword volume data is actually quite accurate. It is, in my view, more accurate than most of the tools out there. And they've got documentation on their site that describes that. And but if you use that plugin regularly and you use SERP Sonar as well, you will have a easier time of checking for KGR compliant keywords. So if you have any questions, please put your comments down below, or if you're watching this on the SERP Sonar site, There's an article that goes into more detail about all of this. Please check out the site. Comments are turned on the site as well, so you can leave comments there. I'd really appreciate that. And I will catch you in the next video.